Civilization is a non-duality problem. You might be going, wait, what do these things have to do with each other? Well, I would like to point out first the long timeline of human history. We're being told now that 300,000 years we have been anatomically us. We've had the big brain. We have therefore had the big human consciousness this whole time. Archaeologists and anthropologists kind of look at it wrong as well. They kind of look and they say, why did we live all that time and only in the last 12,000 years start having agriculture? Well, you go ask indigenous people and they'll tell us, like, duh, we've been practicing agriculture for a long, long time. What they didn't practice was land ownership. Big difference. Until you actually start cutting the land into pieces and stacking up stone fences, there will be no indication of agriculture. Also, so much of our anthropologists consider grains as the thing that is agriculture. But there's so many more foods. And more than likely, human beings have been managing their food system for hundreds of thousands of years. So the big point of all that was we don't assign brilliance to our ancestors, to our deep, deep, deep ancestors, and we should. But why is civilization the problem? Well, even just that word, civil, it comes from being civil with each other. You don't even notice that that is a word that's talking about the way person behaves to person. Already, once you're starting to think about being civil, we're thinking that only humans have consciousness. It's not human-dog relations. It's not human-grass relations and air. It's not the relations between air and birds. It's not the interrelatedness of everything. So, as soon as we start thinking we have civilization, we have human beings who are divided from the natural world by their own belief systems of their superiority. We have hierarchy. Another thing I'd like to point out, just the very idea of civil sounds man-like. Men, civil discourse. The men are in the Senate chamber having civil discourse, civil with each other. It's not what the women were doing. We were just cooking and cleaning and taking care of babies and doing everything. We didn't need to be civil. And that's another point about civilization, is that so much of it just erases women from the imagination of that. And it kind of makes it seem like we weren't even there. But everyone was there. So the only difference with this agriculture is starting to own land, which means hierarchy. You can't own it unless somebody else isn't owning it, right? And it starts erasing women. But more important, it starts dividing us from everything. We are now being civil with each other. What about everything else? What about learning to talk to grass and the wisdom of ants? I always bring in ants. I don't know why, because they're everywhere. What about the wisdom of the air? All these things. So this division that we've had inside of ourselves is, as far as human civilization is concerned, very ancient because it's several thousand years old. As far as human evolution is concerned, human reality, it's a blink of the eye instant. And there are tons of people around the earth who are not living in this divided state, who are born, raised, and live their whole lives knowing who they are and knowing that they are not separate from everything. So, blah, 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 all of that is just to really make everyone understand that the natural state is the non-dual state. Your natural state is enlightenment. You're not looking for something that's going to blast you through into eternal bliss, as in biggest happiness drug trip you can ever have. You're coming down to normal. What is a real human being? You are going from being a divided human being, thinking you're two or more, to being a unified, belonging with everything human being on the planet. So this is really important to understand, and it will totally jumpstart your non-dual practices. It should completely change the goal of what you see non-duality to be. Normal, ordinary, with 100,000 years of ordinariness behind us. Only this tiny, tiny sliver of our immediate ancestors have been broken. And broken, that's a really good word to think of it too, because something happened to you, to me, to everyone when we were very young that made us decide we had to put a barrier of protection between us and everything else. The problem is that we then gave that barrier of protection authority over our lives. Like if we just let that fear and that anguish lead our lives, we'll be fine. And that's just totally the opposite of the way life works. There is nothing wrong with having a barrier of protection between you and the craziness of life. But you can be the master of this barrier. The problem comes from making the barrier feel like it is you, like you are this invention that you've created. And the invention gets created simply by our worrying mind, talking, worrying, bringing up negative thoughts. You can stop all that just by noticing yourself for a second. You have such power and such authenticity, just exactly the way you are. You don't need a puppet master telling you what to do. So when you just imagine that barrier that you have, relax it. Let it drop for a second. What's left? Connection. Now just let your ideas about that drop away. What's left? Relaxed ordinariness. You're looking for what we would call the non-dual state, which is you just totally relaxed into normal ordinariness. No civilization needed.